The 2016 election is on. We have results, we have analysis, we have comparison and evaluation. And I have the, I guess, sort of sad news that lunatic extremist Republican Senator Ted Cruz has won the Iowa caucus on the Republican side. This is the first contest in the 2016 election. Ted Cruz apparently looking to add to a career of unabashed bigotry and religious delusions with a presidential primary win. And he has indeed done that. Let's first take a look just at the results on the Republican side. Ted Cruz, 28%, Donald Trump, 24%, Marco Rubio at 23%, Ben Carson, 9%, Rand Paul, 4%, Jeb Bush, a pathetic 3%, Carly Fiorina coming in at 2%, which is the same support level that John Kasich had, as well as Mike Huckabee and Chris Christie. And Rick Santorum, yes, he is still in the race, at least as of yesterday, 1% of the vote. Now, one of the biggest questions going into this thing, Lewis, was how much are the polls worth, right? How accurate are the polls, and how will the enthusiasm from polls be reflected in the results? In other words, who overperforms the polls going into the Iowa caucus and who underperforms the polls going into the Iowa caucus? And this gets to my key first point about yesterday's Republican results. Did Donald Trump really come in second? Cruz and Rubio exceeded expectations. Donald Trump didn't even meet the expectations set by the polls, those same polls that he would just read at his events. I mean, Trump rallies were basically just him reading polls. Turns out the polls drastically overstated Trump's support. Let's take a look at that, Lewis. As you see, going into yesterday's Iowa caucuses, Ted Cruz had an average of recent polls of 23.9% support. His actual support was 28%. This means Ted Cruz was at plus 4.1%. He overperformed the polls. Donald Trump, on the other hand, went in with an average of 28.6 support in Iowa, and he came out of it with 24% actual voting. That means he underperformed an average of recent polls by 4.6%. And the biggest overachiever is Marco Rubio, who I have been saying for months may well surge here as people realize that Ted Cruz is completely out of his mind as opposed to partially out of his mind, and Donald Trump's candidacy is just a joke. Marco Rubio going into the Iowa caucus with 16.9% support, pulling out 23% support, over 6 points ahead of where the polls had him. So, Lewis, if I'm Donald Trump on this thing, I'm not happy, right? Trump is now saying, well, we never really even thought we would be in Iowa, even though he also said yesterday that his friends were telling him not even to bother with Iowa, but he went. He's the one who drastically underperformed here, and that should be a red flag.
I guess so. A red flag for him and his campaign.
Yeah, exactly.
But was Iowa really where his base is? I mean, is Iowa really representative of Trump support percentage-wise?
Well, very interesting number from yesterday's election in Iowa. The evangelical support was basically distributed between Cruz, Trump, and Rubio in the same proportions that they, broadly speaking, had support. A little bit different, right? But generally speaking, we had evangelicals go primarily for Cruz, Trump second, Rubio third. That is the exact same order that they ended up doing in the broader Iowa caucuses. So as far as the evangelical support, it doesn't seem Trump was particularly lagging there.
Well, I mean, for a long time now, you have been saying that you don't think Donald Trump will be the nominee.
Yes, I have.
And I guess it's starting to show. But it's. I think I'd rather have Donald Trump. I mean, if you had to pick between Donald Trump and Ted Cruz as president, at least Donald Trump has some liberal ideas.
Yeah, I
right?
mean, it's unclear why he's even really running as a Republican. I mean, he's come up with some crazy ideas like banning Muslims, but for the most part, he has an entire life of more democratic ideas, no question about it. If you know, the question is different if I think of who I would rather see the Democratic nominee face versus who would I rather be the president if I knew it was going to be a Republican. We will have plenty of time to talk about that.